Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Monday, August 28 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. It's been almost a month since the police were able to recapture one of the escapees from the Camp Street prison. Acting Commissioner of Police David Ramnarine, however, says that the police are not in a relaxed mode. More from Javon Vickery.
It's been 4 weeks since the authorities caught one of the men who escaped from the prison system. And in light of the lull since July 30, when escapee Clive Ford was killed in a shootout in East Rhymeveld, Georgetown, Acting Police Commissioner David Ramnarine was pressed for an update on the situation. He told the media that the police are still in pursuit of the other remaining escapees.
I can understand that there seem to be some views that we've slowed down a bit in terms of the fact that 4 escapees still remain at large. But I want to assure everyone, authorities and citizens, high and low, that there is what we call the long arm of the law.
In an effort to speed up the process, the police earlier in August were and are still offering a $10 million reward to anyone who can provide details on the escapees' whereabouts. But according to Mr. Ramnarine, the police are still receiving credible information from members of the public, information which has given the authorities a clear idea of where the men are.
There are always leads coming in, and you pursue every lead with due diligence. Unfortunately, we have not yet gotten a lead that has led to us recapturing them. But they're still in country. From all indications, yes, they still are.
Those who still remain on the run are Mark Royden Durant, Yuri Varswick, Cabana Stevens, and Paul Garaya. The men are considered armed and dangerous. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Javon. Another tragedy has struck the aviation sector here in Guyana. Another pilot died in a plane crash. Here are the details. Roraima Airways chief pilot Colin Martin died when the plane he was flying crashed at Itirim on July 25, 2017. On August 8, 2017, a Cessna 206 crashed at Itirim, resulting in injuries to Captain Dominic Waddle. Now, the aviation sector is faced with another disaster. A Cessna 206 plane owned by Air Services Limited crashed on Sunday and killed its captain Imran Khan. In the wake of these 3 crashes, the government has intervened.
We have asked the Director of Civil Aviation to ensure that there are more frequent levels of inspection of these aircraft, of the pilots, of the facilities which they use, to ensure that there is a higher level of safety in these operations. Because as a small country, you cannot continue to be losing young men in the prime of their lives to accidents.
Minister of State Joseph Harmon in an invited comment on Sunday. Khan's plane was scheduled to land at Mardi at 8:47 a.m. Sunday, but it did not. Aviation officials say that an emergency transmitter locator signal was picked up at 9:08 a.m., triggering a search and rescue operation. The Special Forces team arrived at the thickly vegetated and mountainous crash site seen here. Khan's body was extracted from the densely forested area.
We're calling upon the Director of Civil Aviation to improve or increase his level of investigation, his level of oversight over these private operators, in fact over all of the operators, to ensure that their serviceability of these aircraft is checked, that the pilots, the time that the pilots fly, the number of hours they fly must also be checked. And this must not just be on a one-off situation, but it should be a regular check, and every now and then should be what they call a ramp check.
Khan's body was flown to the city Monday. Minister Harmon reiterated that safety is a major concern for the administration. He said that's why government has been expending huge sums for the development of airstrips.
So we want to see a safe aviation industry. We want to see safer airports, safer airstrips in the hinterland, so that the people who have to use these aircraft as the only means of communicating between where they work and where they live, that there must be a very safe corridor.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. The number of teenage pregnancy reports at hospitals in interior location has been a cause for concern. According to Social Cohesion Minister Dr. George Norton, there is truth in the assertion that the pregnancies occur, but there's no truth in the allegation that functionaries in those communities are responsible for the situation. Kristen Macklingam reports.
Cases in which underaged females have been found pregnant in the hinterland communities are matters for concern, especially when leaders in those communities are the ones at the receiving end of allegations of malpractices. Former Public Health Minister Dr. George Norton, who is currently Minister of Social Cohesion, is bringing some clarity to the issue.
Minister, you were the health minister for a while, and in Indigenous communities there were cases or reports where young females, students as well, were being sexually molested or were pregnant, and reports were at the hospitals. Some allegations were that some of the leaders in their communities were the ones responsible for this. What can you say about that?
Well, you're speaking about allegations. I can say that that allegation spread not only to leaders in the community but leaders in the ministry. Because allegations are that persons who are involved in the ministry at the central level, as in Georgetown, fingers were pointed to them.
Minister of Social Cohesion Dr. George Norton. According to Minister Norton, when he was the Minister of Public Health, he was made aware of a number of such cases, but investigations were carried out.
Particularly in the south of the Rupununi. And allegations were made where they were brought out from their village, taken to hotels in Letem and abandoned. But I would be cautious to say that they were all allegations.
However, the government is taking note of all such cases in the hinterland areas and will ensure that they are thoroughly investigated, the minister added. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Thank you, Kristen. We tell you now that Nightly News has been reliably informed that a decision has been made to integrate the Departments of Youth, Sport and Culture with the Ministry of Social Cohesion. The Department of Youth, Sport and Culture, which are presently within the portfolio of the Ministry of Education, will now be submerged under the Ministry of Social Cohesion. Minister of Social Cohesion Dr. George Norton Monday afternoon stated that he will have the responsibility of youth, sport and culture, while his colleague, Minister Nicolette Henry, remains as the Education Minister. Leader of the opposition Barrett Jagdee is urging the government to do what his party failed to do while in government: release all contracts. Jagdee also promised his party's full support to help with legislative work to have the contracts made public. Rodin James reports.
In light of all that they have said, I have been on the record already asking them to release everything that they said we were not transparent about. So to release the airport contract and the revised contract to the airport. To release the Marriott contract, because these are available to governments. We have been saying this for over a year now, there's nothing that stopped them from releasing Baishanlin contract or Sanata. I saw those in the prayer, nothing stopping them.
Mr. Jagdee said that he and the PPP are ready to defend every clause they have put into contracts signed by previous PPPC administrations, and he is imploring the government to make public those contracts the PPPC had been reluctant to release while in government.
And we will support them if they're claiming legislation is preventing them, etc. Tomorrow, as soon as we come out of Parliament, we'll first vote in favor of them to have legislation that reveals everything.
Speaking at his party's press briefing on Friday, Mr. Jagdee also chided the ruling coalition for the non-release of the oil contract agreed with ExxonMobil.
Now we see a new thing creeping into the lexicon of the AFC people, that they can't release the oil and gas contracts because it would have national security implication with Venezuela. How would that have national security implication with Venezuela? This agreement and the contract governs the extraction of the resources. Venezuela probably knows all that ExxonMobil found. In fact, it's public record. This is a public traded company. It's traded on the stock exchange.
Mr. Jagdeo explained that most contracts have confidentiality clauses that govern the negotiating period, and after that period has elapsed, that contract could be made public. In this regard, the opposition leader was asked specifically about a confidentiality clause placed in the ExxonMobil contract.
I'm saying now our position. If we were deficient, that's what they campaign on that the PPP was deficient. It was not tabling all these contracts. You are the guardians of transparency. Imagine they are defending this more than we are.
When Mr. Jagdeo served as president, many contracts signed by him did not make it into the public domain. The opposition at that time had labeled the Jagdeo administration as one shrouded in secrecy. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. Mr. Paul Slow, who's heading that commission of inquiry into the alleged plot to assassinate the president, has provided Nightly News with an update on the commission's work, saying that the commission will soon be ready to hand over its findings to the president. Here is more. By next Thursday, August 31, the Commission of Inquiry probing whether the Guyana Police Force did enough to investigate reports and allegations of a threat to assassinate President David Granger will be ready to present its findings to the President. This revelation was made on Monday when Mr. Paul Slow, head of the Commission, spoke with Nightly News.
Well, the report is to be, the extension was granted up to the 31st of this month, which is Thursday. And based on the work that has been done so far, we are going to meet that 31st deadline. We're just waiting now for the confirmation on when it is to be presented to His Excellency.
The Commission, among its other terms of reference, has to report on what official action was taken by the police force after the receipt of the information and whether there was due diligence on the part of the Guyana Police Force officers or persons involved in the investigation, and recommend actions to be taken against those found blameworthy.
Well, I think it went very well, and that is because I was able to get witnesses and to give evidence in relation to the terms of reference. You know, everything hinged around being able to answer to the terms of reference. There were 8 terms of reference for the Commission, and the evidence that came out allowed me to answer each and every one, which I have done.
It was opposition leader Barra Jagdeo who said the Commission of Inquiry headed by Slow is demoralizing to the Guyana Police Force and that the Commission of Inquiry brings into question the entire leadership of the force. Slow, although not directly responding to Jagdeo, said that the evidence which came out during the inquiry could not be adjusted.
Would you respond to allegations that the Commission had been unfair and unjust?
Well, the whole question is the evidence came out, and it's based on the evidence. The Commission wasn't able or could not adjust the evidence. The Commission cannot change the statements or the facts that came out. So you have to go on the facts, the evidence given by the witnesses, and the circumstances surrounding the whole allegation and the investigation as we were required to do by the terms of reference.
Slow was asked whether or not he was shocked by the revelations of those under cross-examination.
Not really. I very little surprised me. What surprised me in this life is just that some things came out that may surprise some people, but I don't think I was surprised. Might have been a little disappointed, but not surprised, no.
Andrew Gillard alleged that back in June 2015, Nizam Khan had offered him $7 million to kill President David Granger. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Still with the COI, we tell you that the Commission of Inquiry probing ancestral and other lands ended tersely on Monday after a late submission of statements by the Geology and Mines Commission. Royden James is on this story.
The Lands Commission of Inquiry continued its work on Monday morning, and second to take the witness stand was Acting Commissioner General of the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, Mr. Newell Dennison. Mr. Dennison appeared before the commission with a party of lawyers headed by Senior Counsel, former House Speaker Ralph Ramkaran. Although the late submission of statements, Mr. Ramkaran relayed to the Commission that adequate documentation will be provided to help the Commission with its work.
I can lay over with your staff, save you the burden of preparing them, and you have them available right now.
We submit it to the Council?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we also prepared for the convenience of members of the Commission the cases which are referred to in the statement GGMC 1, which have been used by the Commission for guidance in its work in relation to Amerindian lands.
Though Amerindian land issues were ordered to be put on hold by the President, Mr. Ramkaran promised to deliver to the COI's attorney Darren Wade a copy of each of the cases relating to Amerindian lands.
Apart from that, Mr. Chairman, that is all that the evidence we need to wish to lead at this time. I appreciate that the Commission will need to study the statements, and we are prepared to return at a later date at your convenience, sir, and present Mr. Dennison for cross-examination and any other witnesses you wish.
Chairman of the Commission, Reverend George Chakasang, called the day's proceedings to an end, noting that the submissions by Mr. Dennison has to be studied.
Thank you very much for attending and bringing all these material that we have to study. And I still, maybe when you come next, we'll still put you on note.
Mr. Dennison will make another appearance before the Commission on a date to be announced. The Commission of Inquiry continue its work on Tuesday. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. Jevon Vickery will tell you now that an information technology specialist is urging Guyanese to guard against cybercrime threats. He said non-adherence to prevention could have detrimental consequences.
At the opening of the Cybercrime Unit of the Guyana Police Force last March, the then Acting Commissioner of Police David Ramnarine stated that cybercrime prevention is important due to the fact that the crime of choice these days is internet-related. Information technology specialist for cybercrimes Nourish Singh, who's based in the United States, explained that while plans are continuously being put in place to prevent acts of cybercrime locally, Guyanese must also understand the seriousness of cybercrime. He told the media that personal security goes a long way.
My advice to people is that cybersecurity solution is really not there. It's impossible to catch a cyber criminal because they are global. They can be any part of the world. So my advice to you is to protect your own computer. Change your password. Do not use simple password to access your computer. At least have antivirus software on your computer and any kind of security software.
In the 2016 Cybercrime Bill, under Cybercrime Offenses Section 6, it states, a person who intentionally, without lawful excuse or justification, acquires computer data of another person, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $3 million and to imprisonment for 3 years, or on conviction or indictment to a fine of $8 million and to imprisonment for 5 years. Mr. Singh stated that catching perpetrators of cybercrime is sometimes difficult.
Because even if the crime is committed, it's virtually impossible because the criminal could be right in front of us or the criminal could be in another part of the world.
Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
The Ministry of Social Protection is setting out stiff measures to ensure that security firms treat their employees with respect. Here's Ayana George with more.
31 security companies last Thursday attended a seminar with the Ministry of Social Protection to address prevalent labor issues in the sector. Minister within the Ministry of Social Protection, Keith Scott, seized the opportunity to warn private security companies to adhere to labor laws or face penalties.
We mean no disrespect to anyone, but it is a shame that we are in receipt of reports that there are some service providers who have a proclivity for employing individuals who fit the description of a derelict citizen. And that's more than just reports. We are in a position to tell you directly because they come to our night shelter and recruit people.
He added that private security firms are very important in society, but the question lingers, do they operate within the laws of Guyana?
This ministry is mandated to receive and investigate complaints of unfair labor practices made against delinquent employers. And I don't mind telling you that the majority of those complaints we receive are against security services. For example, the main complaints in the realm of failure to pay wages, failure to pay prescribed wages, and failure to pay overtime rates of pay are all in contravention of the Labor Act.
Minister Scott stated the national minimum wage order established a 40-hour work week, with those hours to be distributed over 5 days. But there are some employers, inclusive of service providers, who have adopted a 6-day work week encompassing more than 40 hours and still refusing to pay the overtime rates.
I don't believe that I have to tell you such practices are prohibited and must cease forthwith. I don't believe I have to actually tell you these things because many of you are not guilty of this, but it's important for you to know that your comrades, your fellow colleagues are knowingly engaging in this practice. But you must also know that we are very vigilant. This ministry is in the forefront of protecting the rights of workers.
The minister, who also heads the Department of Labor, stressed that the government will be prepared to spend unlimited funds in defense of the Guyanese people. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Work on the Amerindian land titling project is reportedly being adversely affected because the Amerindian lands aspect of the Ancestral Lands Commission of Inquiry was put on hold. Existing anomalies regarding individual and communal lands for Indigenous peoples are also hanging in the balance. Kristen Macklingam reports.
There was nothing sinister about the establishment of the Lands Commission of Inquiry, and the cries by certain Indigenous representatives have halted the process which would have cleared up the confusion in the Indigenous communities. That's according to Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Sidney Alicock.
A lot of these questions that are coming up here now about village confusion was to be the, or is to be the work of the COI helping in these investigations, and the team will come up with recommendations to resolve this matter.
Minister Alicock at the last session of the National Tushaus Council Conference. Minister Alicock alluded to the administration's position that the persons who were selected to function on this COI would have been able to rectify certain situations with regards to the claims of communal and individual lands.
That team would have more time to deal with these issues while the Amerindian land titling moves on. Also, in addition to that, the Amerindian land titling body is small. We have a small team, and it is taking time.
According to the Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, had the leaders of those communities allowed the process to follow through, many of the concerns about lands raised at the NTC conference this year would not have existed at this point.
Instead of being aware and conscious and willing as leaders to stretch the dollar, they prefer to sit and complain. But to go to spread bad news, they were able to use that money and go talking about the COI.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Rodin James will tell you now that a 2-week field tactical exercise has boosted the president's confidence about the country's preparedness to protect its borders at the level of the Ghana Defense Force.
The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces noted that the exercise served to reaffirm and reassure the Defense Board and the people of Guyana that the Guyana Defense Force is always ready to fulfill its mission to protect Guyana's territorial integrity and is in a state of preparedness for any security threat which may arise, even as government continues to make significant investments in re-equipping the force. The President made these comments after witnessing the final attack along with several ministers of government at the Colonel John Clark Military School in Takama on Friday.
And we have challenges to face in this country. And a big challenge is the security of our borders. And this exercise, Iron Reed, is an exercise that is dedicated to ensuring that Guyana is ready to protect its borders.
In addition to this exercise, the force is currently engaged in two major operations. Operation Clean Sweep, which is aimed at recapturing the 4 prisoner escapees still on the run, and Operation Axel, which is focused on border deployment and protection.
No matter how much equipment you have, if your morale is low, and if your conduct is improper, you cannot be a good soldier in Guyana. So your attitudes, your behavior and conduct are as important as your weapons and the rations and the clothing and equipment you wear.
The commander-in-chief told the troops that military service in Guyana is being transformed. He stressed that the exercise and training courses are very important because they signify the rite of passage of the people who are called upon to defend this country.
Soldiers of Guyana, we have a very complex task before us. We have to protect our environment, our fragile environment. People can come across our borders with road building equipment unknown to the center and build airstrips and maybe get Guyanese to collaborate with them to remove our precious minerals and other commodities. So the Defense Force has to take on a greater role in protecting our territory, protecting our environment from degradation and from spoliation.
The exercise commenced on August 11 with the final contingent of troops moving into the exercise area located in the jungle and savannas of Takama East Berbice Quarantine Region 6. The exercise is designed to assess the GDF troops in close country warfare and open country warfare simulations of battle. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. Indigenous folks need to commence preparation for the oil and gas industry in Guyana instead of focusing on past problems, since they stand to benefit from oil and gas revenues which will be raked in. Here is Christian Macklingam.
The expected oil and gas industry in Guyana is a very serious matter that leaders of indigenous communities should be focused on and ensure the right preparations are made. That's according to Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Sidney Alicock.
And what plans would they have to ensure that they begin to prepare their young people, which would be the workforce, for the eventual opportunity of infrastructural development, renewable energy development, communication development, better hospitals, better everything.
Minister Alicock addressing the media on Day 5 of the NTC Conference 2017. The minister stated that he was hopeful that the Tashaus from the various indigenous communities would have utilized the NTC conference this year to have a better understanding of the roles they should and must play in their villages, but lamented that they did not use the opportunity provided.
When will we prepare our youths to be ready for this eventual development? And time is short, and that is what I was hoping that they would have been focusing on, instead of every little opportunity to attack.
According to Minister Alicock, the lack of jobs for indigenous youths can be addressed if they are geared to play roles in the oil and gas industry workforce, and therefore it is imperative that the leaders do their parts. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Your sportscast is ahead.
Good evening, I'm Stanford Howard with the HGP Sportscast. We tell you now in cricket. In the third cricket test at Leeds in England, West Indies finished the fourth day proceedings at 5 without loss. They are now required to score 317 runs to equal the 3-match series on the last day. Earlier, Royston Chase put the visitors in front after he scalped 3 wickets in quick succession. That includes the wicket of Don Mallon and Ben Stokes. But Moeen Ali and Chris Wokes changed the course of the match after the 2 batsmen smashed individual half-centuries. Ali was caught Brafford bowled Bishu for 84, before Root declared England's innings at 490 for 8. In more cricket news, Guyana Amazon Warriors depart Guyana on Sunday for Barbados, where they are to come up against the Barbados Tridents, this being a match the Warriors must win in order to compete in the knockout stage of the CPL Tournament 2017. Colwyn Abrams has the details.
Captain of the Warriors, Rayad Emirates, said they have been playing good cricket, but it was not smart cricket, and this is what they have to improve on by the next game. He also commented on the new team appointment.
Well, that's why we brought him in, for his experience. So, he's going to have to do the job at the top of the order for us. We'll have a meeting when we get there and decide if he's going to bat, what position he's going to bat. But definitely he'll be in the team.
Emirates also noted that the Warriors have an outstanding bowling lineup, and if they can continue to bowl players out, they stand a fair chance. But their batsmen need to step their game up for the rest of the tournament. The Warriors must win their next 2 matches. They come up against the Barbados Tridents on August 29 and the Jamaica Tallawahs on September 1st. From the Eugene F. Correa International Airport, Colwyn Abrams.
Football news. The final round-robin game in the Coronas Invitational Tournament were played off on Friday when Northern Rangers and Compton emerged victorious with 2-0 victories over Flamingos and Black Pearl, while Rhythm Squad and Pele played to a 0-all draw. Northern Rangers continue their winning form with a comfortable 2-0 victory over Flamingo in the first match of the evening. Stefan Reynolds put the Rangers ahead early in the 5th minute. Top of the group, Rangers and Western Tigers are the only unbeaten team in the tournament. Rangers solidifying their chances of remaining unbeaten as well as winning the match, when Sunil Logan doubled their lead with a composed finish in the 29th minute. The second match of the night, which Compton won 2-0, was in similar fashion to Northern Rangers' victory. Both goals were scored early. Ulrika Cordon put the winners ahead in the 3rd minute, which placed tremendous pressure on Black Pearl FC, as their miserable run of form was sustained as they suffered their 3rd loss, whilst conceding 19 goals in the process. Compton's second goal was scored by Ozell Small in the 27th minute. Final match of the night was a stalemate between Pili FC and Rhythm Squad. The goalless draw didn't produce many chances as both teams saw most of their attacking ploys broken down. The Guyana Tennis Association, in collaboration with GBTI, staged a successful free tennis camp on Sunday at the GBTI branch in Diamond. Colwyn Abrams has the details.
Participants benefited from the exercise of one of the top tennis coaches, Mr. William Skeet, who is also working with Mr. Andre Erskine. The top young participants who took part in the camp were awarded trophies and certificates at the end of the exercise on Sunday. GBTI branch manager of Diamond, Keola Blackman, pledged the bank's continued support for the sport.
Of course, we'll continue to support it. The thing is, of course, we need the support of, much more than GBTI, but we'll continue to do our part. We'll continue to partner with the Guyana Lawn Tennis Association to do what we can to strengthen the sport and at least give people the opportunity to, use the facilities we have here.
President of the Guyana Tennis Association, Jamal Goodluck, says he saw potential in many of the participants this year.
Because a bunch of kids that we had this year, we see good potential. We had some really exciting matches today, and it was remarkable having them go from 0 to what they are now within a 2-week span, which was really good.
With participation down from last year, the association plans to revive the sport in the Diamond Grove area. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Internationally in boxing, Floyd Mayweather claimed his 50th victory and maintained his unbeaten record after stopping Conor McGregor in the 10th round last Saturday night in Las Vegas. It was one of those rare encounters in the boxing ring. 29-year-old Conor McGregor, who is a professional UFC fighter with no experience in the boxing arena, came up against the undefeated Floyd Mayweather. McGregor, who got off to a flying start, throwing a series of punches at the 40-year-old Mayweather and scoring a few early points. As the first round wore on, Mayweather went on the offense but failed to connect, and it was the Irishman who was ahead as the bell rang. In the second round, McGregor continued the assault and easily held his own against the undefeated Mayweather. McGregor received a warning in the 3rd round for illegally connecting with Mayweather on top of the head. Mayweather, meanwhile, struggling to stamp his authority on the contest, receiving blows to the head and failing to make an impact on the 29-year-old opponent. The American found himself against the ropes early in the 4th round as McGregor went on the attack. Mayweather, who is known to be patient and started to find his groove in the 5th round, pushing the Irishman back. Mayweather landed a number of blows to the body and his pressure started to pay off in the 6th as the Irishman seemed to be tired. In the 7th, he finally started exerting serious pressure on McGregor, getting him on the ropes and landing a hard left hook. In the 8th, Mayweather maintained the pressure, but McGregor remained defiant, landing some shots of his own. McGregor got Mayweather on the ropes early in the 9th, but Mayweather battered McGregor with a hard right. With the Irishman clearly tiring and with his legs wobbling, Mayweather moved in for the kill, but the Irishman survived the round. Mayweather finished McGregor off in the 10th round, with the referee stepping in to stop the fight. That's all we have for this edition of the AGP Sportscast. Back to you, Travis.
Another deadly plane crash in Guyana's jungle. Civil Aviation ordered to conduct frequent random checks of planes. Alleged assassination plot against the president. COI findings to be ready for August 31. Prison escapees still in Guyana. Police are not in a relaxed mode, says Acting Commissioner Ram Narain. And charges of Indigenous leaders responsible for teen pregnancies. They were all allegations, says Minister Norton. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.